record so I don't forget, and then we'll give it just a couple more minutes. Usually people filter in, and then we'll
Sure.
get going. It is like Adam and I were just talking as well. We kind of had a bit of a dilemma where, since we meet every other Wednesday, we kind of had the option to change this meeting date, and we would likely maybe lose some people because it is Veterans Day. So we were like, well, should we change it and maybe lose people, or should we just keep it on Veterans Day and then possibly lose people? So it's kind of a dilemma.
I thought about that. Yeah, that today was Veterans Day.
Yeah, so we'll see if that heavily affects turnout. Regardless, I'm recording this, and then I'm gonna definitely be sending it out, if you don't mind, trying to send it out to the Philosophy Club, those who weren't able to make it today.
Sure.
So, okay, so I got the recording.
So we have Niklaus, Jason, and Tom. Hi.
How long have you been at East Bay?
A while now, 6 years.
6 years? Okay.
Yeah, I started with Loyola University Chicago, then University of San Francisco, but apparently Cal State East Bay is my home.
Yeah.
Cool. My friends actually go
really
to there.
Nice.
I'm like 30 minutes from there, from where my home is.
I see. Where are you?
I'm from Fremont.
Fremont, right? Yeah. It's a nice combination of students, social call, motivation, and also, they require academic activities and so on.
It's a fairly diverse campus from what I've seen. And it's not like super competitive, but also not like a bottom tier school either.
Yeah. And my department is great, which is not easy to find nice collaborators to work with. Yeah. And now we have Arshpreet Singh. Hello.
Yep. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
No problem.
This week better. It's been stressful, right?
Yeah, elections and everything. It's been a crazy last little few weeks, huh?
It's been really, really difficult to focus and work with these answers pending on our shoulders.
Yeah, sort of looming over your head all the time, huh?
Right. I mean, now we have lots of work ahead because it's still not leaving the White House. Who knows? Yeah,
big changes.
This morning, unfortunately, this morning I decided to start my day listening to Democracy Now! And oh God, it took me lots of time to recover. Generally, I listened to it, around noon. I let myself wake up and then, okay, let's see the news. Today I started from there and it was really hard to recover. But anyway.
Okay, so it's just about 4:05, so we'll get started here. Like we normally do, I know all of us in the meeting, other than, of course, Susie, have been in previous meetings, but we'll go through, introduce ourselves and stuff like that. And like we normally have done in previous meetings, we usually just do popcorn introductions. So I can start and then we'll call each other down and introduce maybe like your name, your major, and then what you're interested in. So like as far as that major goes. So I'll go first. My name's Kevin. I'm the president of the Philosophy Club at UCR. My major is philosophy and I'm minoring in religious studies. I tend to enjoy topics on ethics, moral responsibility, and philosophy of religion. So a pretty broad spectrum there, but let's see. And I'll go ahead and popcorn. Tom, are you there right now?
Yeah, hey, So my name's Tom. I'm in my 5th year as a graduate student at the philosophy department. I'm interested in ethics, and then I also do history of philosophy, especially 19th, 20th century German. I'm
What are
going to
you
call.
studying now, Tom?
What's that?
What are you studying now in the 20th century German philosophy?
Oh, yeah. So I'm just now finishing. So I'm writing my dissertation, but I'm just now finishing up a project on Nietzsche and Williams in relation to moral demandingness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Wonderful. Good luck with that. That seems very interesting.
I'm going to call on Jason.
Hey, hi, how's it going? Jason, I'm a second year in the program as a graduate student and in the philosophy program. And I still have sort of kind of divergent interests. I'm interested in action and agency, and also the history of philosophy, Kant and the German idealist tradition, and then also some interest in like the early analytic and history of logic and modern logic versus old logic, stuff like that. So I'm still sort of like, but yeah. Yeah.
Wide range. Wonderful.
And then
I was supposed to call on someone. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
totally forgot to do. I'll call on Adam. Sorry.
All right. I was probably just going to jump in anyway. So no. Okay. So my name's Adam. I'm the, as Kevin said, the vice president of the club. I'm senior, but still a lowly undergrad. I guess ethics is kind of one of my main interests, a little bit of aesthetics. But I've recently been reading some stuff on the early phenomenologists on emotion and so forth. So that's kind of got my interest recently. Although with Susie in the room, she's definitely much more an expert on phenomenology than anyone else here, I would say. I have been reading your book, but it's slow going because I've got a lot of other stuff going. But it's on Husserl's ethics, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess that's all I got. Does Arshpreet want to introduce himself?
Yeah, sure. All right, so my name is Arshpreet. I go by AP as well. I'm an incoming transfer, so I'm a 3rd year. My favorite subject, so I'm also a philosophy major, so my favorite subject in philosophy would be ethics because it's what got me into philosophy. And yeah, I'll go with Nicholas. Is that how you say your name?
No, that's right. I'll just go by Nick. It's probably easier that way. I don't know why. It's like a German spelling for like Tiger Woods. Or not Tiger Woods. Forgot Jack Nicklaus. Golfers. Anyways, yeah, I'm Nick. I'm a 2nd year undergrad philosophy major, and I'm a treasurer of the club somehow. Anyways, yeah, I'm interested in philosophy. I'm mostly along philosophy of mind, psychology, and why people do things, especially in existentialism and stoicism when it comes to mental health with applied philosophy.
On the 16th of November, I'm organizing a webinar on Stoicism, and the speaker is Massimo Pigliucci. He's very great. I don't know if you have ever run into his name. If you want to join, I will pass on the link. I think it's going to be interesting.
That'd be fun to see. Yeah, I would love to join. Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Another thing too that's actually coming up here on Friday, if any of you guys are interested, Dr. Eric Schwartzgable is doing a bit of a talk on the morality of eating meat or something along those lines. I think I've sent out an email to undergrads, but I could possibly do that to grad students too if you haven't already gotten anything. But yeah, so that's on Friday. I know Nick and I won't be able to go because we have a class then, but
yeah, we can always skip like
we can always ditch
class.
Dr. Fisher. No,
no, we can do that.
But yeah, so thank you guys for coming. I am recording this too. I think with it being Veterans Day, we might have obviously seen this dip in numbers as to normal, but I'll be recording this. So if you do know anyone who's interested but wasn't able to come, feel free to email me. I'm going to be trying to just email this out to the club, and then if anyone isn't a member of the club, but you guys know that they might be interested in this, feel free to email me and I can send you the link to our website. That's where I'm going to be posting any of the past videos on. That's what I've been doing, except for last time because I forgot to hit record. So anyways, feel free, Susie, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we can get started on the topic.
All right. So thank you for inviting me and being together this afternoon. Yeah, my name is Susi Ferrarello. From where to start? I mean, I think that my introduction and my topic blends a little bit with each other because I'm not going to talk about something too theoretical today. I mean, I'm going to speak about my job. And my job is, I mean, not my teaching job, but my work as a philosophical counselor. And that intersects really a lot with my life. So I originally come from Italy. I decided to do a PhD in France because I was reading Husserl's manuscripts on ethics. And yeah, at the time, it was before internet. I feel so old, but it wasn't so easy to find books in general. So you had to go to the archives, read manuscripts, and even more so with Husserl. With his ethics, Husserl published the logical investigations and not much more. So his work was really in progress while I was studying. So I went to France and I did my PhD on his ethics, reading his manuscripts. Then I went to Leuven and so on. I discussed my PhD. I was afraid, frightened, as everyone can with the PhD dissertation. So then, I had to survive, right? So I started doing, besides other jobs, private lessons, and the private lessons were I was teaching Greek and Latin, which was quite strange, but I had lots of students teaching Greek and Latin. And I noticed at the time, consider I was in my 26, more or less, I noticed that plenty of my students couldn't learn well, not because Greek and Latin was difficult, of course it was, but there were always emotional issues floating around. And I noticed that my job was not just helping with translating Greek and Latin, but it was very much working with emotional issues that were at home, in class. They were high school students, so at that age, lots is happening. And okay, so life went by. I got tired of being in Europe. I took my bag and I jumped. And I went to the US and I started this new adventure. And while I was there, I happened to read a book from Lou Marinoff. I don't know if you know this title, Plato, no Prozac. Not Prozac, Plato. It's it's very descriptive. So Marinoff at the time was defending the idea of, philosophy can help much more than other disciplines. The philosophers should be out there sharing their knowledge. And that book, which is really humorous, light, but with important insights, made me think about what I have been doing until then. I was, after all, using bits of phenomenology of ancient philosophy, because I loved ancient philosophy, to help my young students to cope with their practical problems. So I thought, okay, let's go there. Let's go to New York and take this, do this workshop. And so I got the title to become a philosophical counselor, and also not only the title, but the community. I was truly surprised. I mean, you do philosophy, so you know what the ivory tower is. I mean, when you are doing philosophy, you are mostly locked in your room, reading strange stuff, wondering if anyone ever could share that interest, if this can find any application. Philosophy can be quite an isolating matter, which is such a pity. And going there, there was a room full of philosophers trying to find an application for their studying, which was already, something, it was a job. It wasn't just theory, it's something you find in the books. And we practiced this job with each other. We tried to move forward. As far as I know, it wasn't easy for Marinov to start this program, because in academia, philosophical counseling wasn't seen that well. It seemed dangerous to give philosophers this authority, this power, as if, psychologists know what they are doing, but philosophers, which is a pity, because, the more I grew with my research, the more I came aware, of course, of the between philosophy and psychology. I mean, until Lipps, philosophy and psychology were together. It was the need to create experimental philosophy, practical philosophy, that led to the schism. Other people say that it was also the need to create a profession out of this investigation that led psychologists to, separate from philosophy and make, there's the critique of Saz, make the psyche an organ, something practical that we go and dissect and so on. But anyway, polemic aside, I learned also to be careful, to be extremely professional and upfront with my potential clients about what I was doing and about the fact that I wasn't a therapist, I wasn't a psychologist, and so on. Now, to be completely open and honest with you, when I came back home after this program, I thought, okay, this is going to be just for me. Nobody will ever be interested in doing philosophical counseling. I mean, it's another thing. I did my philology exams, I did my philosophy exams, I am doing counseling. Everything is for me, because I'm fascinated about that. That was my mindset. Nevertheless, just out of perseverance, I followed their advice. And it was truly, truly, truly surprising to see that clients started coming. And it was also beautiful to see how that happened in a very organic way. The more I was understanding about this job, the more clients were gathering information about me. And it's strange because, flash forward to the present. I mean, and now it's been 5 years, 7 years that I'm strictly doing philosophical counseling. And I had really very different clients, very different cases with each other. Often I'm contacted by people who don't know, have no pale idea of what I'm doing, which is alarming. Because you would think that a person who is putting its own mind to in the hands of somebody else would dissect every information about what the other person is doing. And no, so often I had to do a kind of a very clear introduction and education of my clients of what was going on. And the first meeting for me is always to understand if I can actually help this person, because that is the discrimination for me. I'm certainly not doing therapy. I mean, while I see therapy as, a long path, and the psychotherapist and other professionals can take on that job. My job is, as I always say to my clients, is clarification. We have an incredible power. I mean, we philosophers, we read Kant, we read Husserl, we have an access into the minds of very, very complicated thinkers, and we can make sense out of that messiness. So, can we understand the messiness of a person who feels lost in a certain moment of its life? I think we can. I mean, we can clarify thoughts that seems very complex and intricate. And that's what I tell my clients I do. So I don't know, I had clients that were just perfect for me. I received calls from people who asked me, please, I need ethical clarification. Can you help me? Yes, of course. I love that. I mean, my core is in ethics. So there are people who feel lost because they don't know anymore what's right and wrong, and why they keep doing the wrong thing even if they know that it's wrong. Or as it happened in the Bay Area, because at some point now, because at some point I moved to Switzerland and I lived there for 2 years, and I practiced in Switzerland for 2 years. So now it's strange because I have clients from the Bay Area, but now that we are living through the pandemic, my clients are really coming from everywhere because it's online. So geography is okay, it's a small detail. But back in time, when my clients were mostly in the Bay Area, the most common problems I was facing was the crisis of meaning. Because I happen to work often with young professionals in tech who reach the top of their careers quite fast. And okay, now what? I'm young, I'm everything, and I'm incredibly miserable. How should I do? In Switzerland, instead, there's a sense of meaningless lesson of life that is, I notice, mostly connected to have again, having everything. Switzerland is a very decent country, right? Everything is nicely organized, politics holds, things work. And there's a different sense of getting lost in meanings, or another issue that comes up very often is intimacy. And I think that philosophers are really good on this point. I mean, I'm lucky. I think that there are certain philosophies that help more than others in terms of counseling. I was lucky because I started with my studying with philology. So I had a solid basis on ancient philosophy. And then I went into phenomenology, and I think that phenomenology can give you concepts like epoche, intentionality, intersubjectivity, interaffectivity, a number of tools that you can use in your session. And of course, you don't need to sit there and teach your client about this stuff, because it's incredibly boring, and your clients just want to get out of certain problems. But you can certainly use it. I mean, you can see, for example, I don't know, I had clients who had problems of intimacy, and epoche is absolutely great to practice, because okay, let's just put in parentheses all your assumptions about yourself and your partner, and let's try to look at this phenomenon from different perspectives, using the horizons, using the Abschattung, trying to to look at what you have from not just from your point of view, which is generally the point of view that is letting you to the sense of desperation for which you call a professional. So the moment I gave myself the discipline to accept only 5 clients maximum per term, because since I don't have I'm not a therapist, but nevertheless, I'm in close contact with other human beings. I noticed that 5 is my maximum in terms of taking up on human complexity. And I must say, it's ongoing. People out there need us. Now I'm writing a grant to promote, philosophy videos that can bring philosophy into personal life. Videos, I mean, podcasts, webinars. I think that it's truly a pity that only Eastern philosophy seems to be a valid alternative to human issues, because my God, the Western philosophers we are studying on had quite interesting lives, and they came up with interesting worldviews with other people. And I got incredibly big satisfactions from my clients. I mean, I have a portfolio of clients that are very grateful for my work. Now I'm going to publish for the first time so far only on Psychology Today. I wrote about my experience in philosophical counseling, but soon it's going to be out with Routledge, a book on, what's the title? I keep forgetting the title of what I write. It's something like the role of bioethics in human emotions. So I'm trying to connect in emotional problems. I'm trying to connect how to deal with, our sense of well-being and emotions using cases. So in this book, for the first time, I used practical cases I encountered, and I tried to connect both. Now, I don't know if I talk too much. I don't know if there's something you want to know. I could stop here, and if you want to ask me questions, more or less I covered everything.
I have lots of questions, but
great.
But I mean, if you want to continue, if there was something that you wanted to say to wrap up, that's cool too.
Nothing comes to mind now. I'm glad to entertain questions. It's more fun.
I have a lot of them, but I need to organize them. So where I want to start. So so you do this full time now, or do you still teach?
Yeah, I have friends who do psychotherapy, and they have something like 6 clients per day. So I don't know if this is full time, because the 6
Lot.
clients per day, it's a lot. It's truly a lot. So for me, it's 5 clients per cycle, because there's also a natural cycle. I tell my clients it's very, very rare that I have a client for more than 1 year, for example. I had very difficult cases that required, 1 year. Uh, but generally, it doesn't make sense for me to have a client for more than 1 year. So generally, I try to have 5 within a cycle. Mhm.
Okay, and so what kind of people do you get contacting you? I'm curious, partly because, as probably everyone else here knows, at least in the United States, when you tell somebody that you work in philosophy, they have no clue what you're doing. They have no idea.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't even know that they don't know, right? And so I'm just really curious what kind of stuff you get,
Right.
what kind of clients, and what they're like.
That's a great question, because really I get anything. So I got those who read me on Psychology Today, then they go on my website, then they might read my stuff on academia.edu, and they are very curious about the philosopher. So they want to, it's a kind of an intellectual exchange that, okay, might be fun for one session or two, but what's the problem there? There are others that they might like my profile on Psychology Today, and they might like my face, and they say, okay, why not? And with those people, I have to be extremely careful. I had the clients that had to say, I'm really, really, really sorry, but I cannot take you. I had, for example, a client during the pandemic. It was ruthless, believe me. I had too much. During the lockdown, it was really, really tough. I had a client, for example, more than one, who was a victim of domestic abuse. And clearly, I cannot take this client. I mean, here there's a concrete psychological thematic, and I can clearly connect you. I have the moral responsibility, I think, to connect you with the people who can help you in this moment. I can be around you if you need somebody to talk to, but I'm not skilled for that. Similarly, I had the people who, for example, in Switzerland, there's this great program that is called Exit. So people suffering from borderline personality or other big disorders who wanted to go through euthanasia. And I cannot help you. So there are people who contact me, and ideal that if already through the email exchange, I can understand if I can help you or not. Sometimes there are people who really need to talk to me, and okay, let's talk, let's schedule a first meeting. But if, for example, the routine question I ask is, do you take medications? Do you want to take medication? Have you ever fantasized about suicide? If any of these answer is yes, I'm not your person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my job. On the other hand, my ideal client that contact me, and maybe they don't know who I am. It's really fascinating for me to discover how many people contact me and they had no pale idea of who I am and what I do. For some reason, they feel that they can contact me, and I might be the right person. They might have seen that I wrote a book on intimacy, and so they say, oh, okay, I really need to talk to you, or I worked in a sexuality program. I have for a period of time, I had numerous clients with sexual issues, and generally they never want to be seen. They want to have meetings just over the phone, which is kind of a nightmare for me, but okay, because English is not my first language, so I have to be very, very focused in understanding each word. And, I think that philosophy can help a lot in sexuality problems. And this semester I'm going to teach on philosophy of sexuality, for example, because philosophy is blatant. It's straightforward, and it's very good at clarifying where ethics ends and your drives begin. It has that kind of clear-cut way of looking at things. Then you put them together. But, at least in the reasoning, it's important to understand, to let yourself go and then come back to the ethical issues. Most of ethical issues are connected to sex drives that are judged too early, and then they create bigger problems. I find the philosophy really good at it. So, yeah, really very different clients. A few of them, really a small percentage, motivated by the fact that I'm a philosopher and they read what I wrote. The majority, random. Yeah.
I ask you some like more business related questions, and
Sure.
I don't want to take up all the time. I also have like substantive questions about, but so I'll just pose these and I'll
Sure, go ahead.
So do you like have issues with insurance? I mean, do you have like any connections with like insurance, plans and so on? And what about like the money aspect? I don't know how comfortable you are to talk about that, but
Sure. Yeah, that's a very good question. The difficulty, and I receive plenty of emails about that, and my answer is I cannot help you because it's it's quite a riddle to define for me. Because, for example, in Switzerland, insurance covers these kind of services, but the point is that I'm in the US, so and. In the US, philosophical counseling is not covered. I have a personal insurance in case clients go against me, and generally there's a form they fill out and sign at the very beginning. So there's that attention, but yeah, I don't know if my colleagues have found a way to, reduce the price through insurance. I have colleagues of mine who charge, I don't know, there was a colleague of mine who was charging $200 per session. Yeah, apparently philosophy, that colleague of mine was very good in phobia. Philosophy seems to be good with phobias because, after all, behavioral therapy has a very strong core in cognitive philosophy. So it's not that strange that philosophy can help in that sense. Because after all, behavioral therapy comes from there. But anyway, around $100 per session, but I'm open to sliding scale, to change. Now I have, for example, a client who is going to pay way less than that because she has problems. I want to be helpful.
Yeah.
Because fortunately, I'm in a moment in my life that I can do it. As philosophers, we know it's kind of a struggle. So yeah, more or less, it's around that. It's a sliding scale, though.
I actually had a brief question as well.
Sure.
You had just mentioned your colleagues. How large is this field, or people doing something similar to what you're doing? Because frankly, I've never heard of anything like this.
Really?
And so it seems very interesting. I'm curious how widespread this field is, whether that's just America or worldwide.
No, everywhere. It's truly widespread. I'm connected to the American group. But I read about colleagues in Europe. I don't know about Asia, for example. I didn't hear how is in Asia. Yeah, no, but I received a request on LinkedIn also from Asia, Africa. So it's, yeah, we are coming forward. Yes, let's do it. It's, of course, the majority of people, I mean, I don't think that philosophical counseling needs to replace therapy. But my point that I really want to make here is that philosophy has the rare quality of arriving before the crisis blows up. Meaning, you know, if you are caught in an obsessive compulsive disorder and this is obstructing your natural life, probably you need to go to a therapist, or probably you need to go to a psychiatrist and get some medication and so on. Since philosophy is reflective and theoretical, theorein means to observe, right? I mean, since philosophy has this theoretical approach, philosophy can help to educate you in a very, it doesn't take long, in a very straightforward and simple way to how to observe your life and fix the problem before it's too late. So, you know, the number of philosophical counselors is growing. It's not replacing therapists, I think, but it can be really, really helpful in preventive problems to explore, and also educate people to be responsible for their thinking, for their emotional balance. After all, you know, when you go to the therapist, you delegate to the therapist your well-being. And sometimes, even worse, you delegate to a pill your well-being, which is a pity. Philosophy, you know, if you think about you know, the notion of Erneuerung, of the self-responsibility in phenomenology, you know, there is a strong appeal to what you can do for yourself, for your well-being. And I think we can spread that. Sorry, it was a very long answer. I got inspired at some point. I spoke more than I was supposed to.
Is there a like a program that's, or like an institution for philosophical counseling? I mean, does anything like that actually exist?
Yeah. Allora, I'm ignorant because I was very lucky in going to the right place at my very first attempt. So I didn't have to search much. But there's this group, APPA, that is very serious. And if you have a PhD, for example, it reduces the amount of time you have to dedicate, because the core idea is that if you study philosophy and if you have a good education in philosophy, half of your work is already done. Then you have to develop, you know, the skills to relate to the other people and convey your message. And this group in New York is really, really good. I think that they train every year or maybe every semester. And I'm still in contact with some of my, you know, schoolmates, and we help each other with references and so on.
Mm-hmm. It just seems to me like it would be the kind of thing that could be really, really successful. And I think that I mean, there are different reasons for this, but one of them I think just has to do with what seems to me the fact that for many, many philosophers, for many, at least graduate students, people that I know, there's a need to connect philosophy to what they actually do. And in fact, those are the things that motivate them in the first place to study philosophy. That's why they get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's a point, and this is what you were saying before, but there's a point where it just kind of feels really, really disconnected from the world, where really what you're doing is, you know, just playing around with ideas, and then when you're done with them, you send them off to a journal that nobody reads other than experts.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like a huge waste of time when it comes to ideas that are supposed to, I mean, often are actually relevant for how we live. And so I think that there are a lot of people who'd be really, really eager and are looking for ways to do that. And that's one of the reasons why public philosophy has kind of exploded more recently. But this seems to me like a great sort of possibility for so many philosophers.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we have to get out of our rooms. I'm not saying research is not worthy to pursue. I mean, poor Adam is reading my book, and he knows how abstract and up in the clouds I can be, because phenomenology, doing scholarly phenomenology.
Philosophers.
Yeah, requires expertise. You need to be extremely careful. It's peer work, and it's okay like that. We need to be serious, especially now we know how much ignorance costs to us on every level. Nevertheless, as you said, we enter into this field always because of personal reasons, always because we are looking for an answer, and we are caught up in this kind of academic rigidity that is requested from us. And okay, I want and I need to stick to that. But in the meantime, we learn so much. We really learn an heritage that is a waste to live just in these super specialized articles. And it really pains my heart when I see people dismissing philosophy as, okay, it's just intellectual talks. I will go to this shelf and choose the first self-help book I find, which generally drive me so crazy, these self-help books, because they draw from philosophy without citing. And okay, now we learn how to be self-confident, and now we learn how to be a successful manager. Yeah, okay. Probably you are taking adulterated concepts from Stoicism, Epicureanism, and who knows what else, without saying it, maybe because you don't even know. But anyway, now I'm too harsh.
Sort of piggybacking off of Tom's question too, there's clear that a lot of people want to feel more as though they're not just doing this theoretical philosophy that it's hard to find a meaning to. Rather, it's been more and more common over the years to apply these things. Applied ethics is a massively growing field now. Are there fields or little subcategories of philosophy, because of course it's such a wide-ranging discipline, that might be better for someone to join a job such as yours? Would it be applied ethics, or if your specialization is primarily in aesthetics, does that provide you anything different that you can sort of bring to the table?
Right, that's a good question, and unfortunately I might give you a biased answer because of affinities. You tend to talk to people who are in your close range. So my colleagues are mostly from ethics, applied ethics, philosophy of mind, aesthetic. But I don't exclude that a good philosopher of mind can give some support, a good logician. Why not? I noticed that both analytic and continental traditions, of course, are in this field, and ethics seem to be the most prevalent field, but probably it comes from the fact that they are colleagues. And also, I'm noticing now that phenomenology, for example, is being massively used for psychiatry and mental health. So sometimes it's just phenomenologists, it's just a big chunk of phenomenologists who are belonging to different fields who are colonizing these lines of research.
I have a question, which is probably piggybacking off of Kevin's, which was already piggybacking off someone else's. So you had you mentioned that you kind of considered yourself lucky insofar as you began kind of your studies with Husserl phenomenology widely, and were able to apply this very easily to your work. Maybe this is more kind of like a personal question, but do you think that someone entering this field with like a certain type of philosophy could actually do more damage? Let's say that, Max Stirner or whatever got into this field, would he really mess up his people? Or do you think just kind of the philosophical type of thought is more what's driving the success of this project?
That's a very good question. I mean, it is true that there are Lebenswelt, there are ways of looking at the world that are more optimistic than others, more grounded than others. So one might instinctively say, okay, so Nietzsche versus I don't know, Leibniz. Maybe Leibniz could help more, but if you look at the history of psychology, and Nietzsche had done a lot to, existentialism in psychology wouldn't exist without him. And now he's been strongly revalued for the studies on resilience, for example. So I think that what is valuable is for philosophers is the efforts that you take in entering other minds, and the time you spend to, when you finally understand the philosopher, and from whenever you take that philosopher, you can give an answer on his behalf or on her behalf, because you have studied that philosopher so much that from whenever you take it, you can, okay, sir, I might try an answer on your behalf. And somehow it works, which is, a strange feeling to have. And it's more that effort that I think pays off in working in philosophical counseling, because you are really loyal to the lived experience of the person in front of you. It doesn't exist that you label that person as irrational, as somebody who doesn't make sense, and try to bring that person to some kind of category. I think that the worth of philosophy is that we create categories. I mean, if anything, we start from absolute messiness, and we try to create a large picture of things, a map, and that pays off. You sit there and you try to understand that mind. And since you received long training in understanding other difficult minds, you have good chances that you will understand what that person is struggling with, and you'll be able to, digest it for him, her, as Aristotle would say. So, I felt lucky because phenomenology is a great entrance, but I think that any philosopher, any tradition can help. I still think that it's you need to read lots of philosophy, that's for sure. There's no shortcoming. You need to pass through this training of okay, what does this text means? But then I think any philosopher will help.
I have a follow-up on Adam's. Maybe it's
Sure.
I think kind of like the same question, maybe coming from a somewhat different angle. So I think that at the core of Adam's question, and you can correct me, Adam, if it's not, if I'm wrong about this, is that philosophy can be helpful, but it can also really fuck you up. And I think that there's something true about that. Yeah. And so I think that there's like a further question about knowing what to apply and how and in what ways you should be sensitive to people. But I think I don't know. I was also thinking about Franz Rosenzweig. You know, he has the little book of the healthy insect understanding, which is basically about how like your mind just goes haywire on philosophy. But yeah, so I mean, I guess that it's a question really about what kind of training you need in order to know what to apply correctly, so that the person doesn't end up, with a whole lot of mess. And this is related, I think, to this other question, which I had really from the beginning, but I didn't get a chance to ask about really what's the aim here ultimately. So, and like, how do you understand it? So you were talking about clarification, which I like a lot. But at the same time, we know that often what happens is that once you dig into a philosophical problem, you don't really end up with an answer. You may end up with lots of different answers, don't know how to pick between them. That might be one way in which philosophy can kind of fuck you up a little bit. But the way that you were talking about it now sounded a little bit more like that there's something positive or good about the journey itself, like the attempt at clarification rather than just the clarification itself. So I don't know if there's a distinction there to be drawn, but
right. Oh my God, your question is so rich. Remind me if I don't answer some point of your question, because it's very rich and useful, I think. We are not talking about philosophical problems. We are talking about life. And I noticed, because life explains itself to you while you're living it. I noticed that I'm good and helpful with people who need some kind of support in transitions, for example. I noticed that often I have clients who are stuck in a certain situation and they don't realize that they're stuck, they don't realize where to go, how to go, and so on. And, it's curious because I always tell them, our work is going to be goal-oriented. We're not going to be here. What's your goal? And sometimes it's quite often you start from a goal, you lose completely the goal. And at some point you realize that you're doing better. You don't have anything to tell me anymore. And realize, okay, not only you fulfilled your goal, but you even went forward. So I don't know, generally I had clients who had problems with their gym instructor to say, okay, I might help you with that. And then you realize that there were deeper issues that made that person behave in a certain way with that gym instructor. But there was so much ethical censorship, there was so much confusion that it took a long time to understand that there was a sexual problem behind. There were memories that were hidden. So in this case, we cross a little bit with psychology, but it's mostly, clarifying thoughts that were forgotten. Now, can philosophy make mistake? Of course, but psychology too. I mean, in that sense, it's important to have a network of people with whom you can talk. I feel lucky because, working in this field for a while, I have not only colleagues who work in psychology, but also philosophical counselors. And I talk with them about my cases and I examine, what I said, what it was right, what it was wrong. And so, it might happen that you make mistakes and the next session you rectify your mistake. You need a network, certainly. You don't fly solo. You need to make sure that what you do is controlled. But there were intuitions. Psychology. We had Freud, who who wrote plenty of things that were damaging for our psychological well-being, right? I mean, some of them were good, some were frankly damaging. Thinking, about homosexuality or so in each one of us there are lights and shadows, and of course we need to be careful, and that's why you need a network to check up on what you're doing. But so far, of course, I mean, I feel that's why I think I can take only 5 clients per time, because every time I work on a case, I don't have the ability to leave the case at home. I mean, once I get a case, I ruminate on it, because philosophers are great ruminators. And so in my head, I constantly think about that problems that my client exposed at that time from different perspectives and so on, because of course, you want to double check on what you do. But I would take some courage and go forward. Philosophers can do wrong as much as psychologists and psychiatrists can do.
Yeah, totally agree.
Now, I do want to definitely respect your time, Susie. Would it be okay if we ask if anyone has any last questions?
Absolutely, yeah, I'm enjoying the afternoon.
Perfect. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, maybe final questions, and then we can wrap it up. You guys can feel free to ask those.
Yeah, no, this seems really great as a thing, because I'm probably gonna look at it and might just like see whether or not I would like to go into this type of thing. But of course, it's like a very pessimistic, cynical type of person. What's like the worst part about this? Because it seems really good, and I'd love to get into this. But what's the worst part? Like, is the amount of schooling, the payment to get out of it, the market's terrible. Like, there's something normally comes wrong whenever you go into philosophy.
What's the catch?
Yeah, there's something seems too good right now, and I don't know what, and I'm curious.
I want to be honest again about the answer. I think that the worst part is my projection. I mean, it's the philosopher mood into that. I don't know how to explain. I mean, my worst enemy in this work was me, thinking that as a philosopher I was completely useless to the society. Italy, let's take Italy, I'm Italian. And if you have the courage to tell anyone, even in your close circle, that what do you do in life? And you have, and you're not focused, and you say, I do philosophy, God forbid, they will laugh at you with taste, that they will love to laugh at you. You have to hide the fact that you do philosophy. Say that you teach, say that you are a shop assistant. Don't say that you do philosophy, right? So, I mean, I'm so used to be despised as a philosopher that when I got into this job, my worst enemy was just me thinking, okay, philosophy will never be useful. I remember my first client. Oh my God, what an anxiety. And I remember my first client, I resolved the problem with one session, and my client was so happy. And inside of me, I was having a party as well, because I said, oh my God, that was so easy. And look how this client is, it's unbelievable. And I managed to help another person in just one session. So it took me a long time, really long time, before I trust the fact that philosophy can do something. So that is the biggest catch. Of course, I won't tell you, do philosophical counseling as your first job. I will not. But honestly, I will. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I'm also questioning being a therapist as a first job. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand the therapist job enough. But personally, I feel very sensitive in putting my livelihood onto the life problems of somebody else I want to help. I feel very, very resistant because, there's a conflict of interest. And I don't like to think that I live, that I can survive because my clients pay me. I really love to do that as, a niche job. That, of course, now it's taking half of my, efforts. So yeah, the market, I don't know how it is the market. I would not recommend you to do it as your first job. But in general, I wouldn't recommend it in any way. Clients, you can choose your clients. So yeah, it could be a downside. It could be that you happen to have clients who are challenging and unpleasant, and you decide what you want to do with it. I mean, I had my clients, oh my God, I happened to have a client who just wanted to yell at a woman because I think I reminded him of his ex-wife who cheated on him. And I had, oh my God, 60 minutes of this client just yelling at me. It was really, really unpleasant. So yeah, clearly that is not nice. And I can't, clearly I can't help you. That's a catch. But in general, I feel, I mean, I'm really happy that you invited me and Adam asked me about this specific question, which I would have never thought to answer, but I'm really happy that I'm sharing what philosophical counseling or consulting, because it depends on where you are. Here in California, I'm a consultant and not a counselor. In New York, theoretically, you can be a counselor, and in Switzerland as well. But I think it's a great job, and I really hope more philosophers get their hands dirty and be part of the world, and with the risk and the benefits that this job can entail. Mm-mm.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Susie, for your time.
Thank you.
I'll end the recording, you guys, again, as per usual. If you have anyone else who you think would find this beneficial now that we're over, feel free to send me an email if you'd like me to email this to you. But otherwise, again, Susie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being able to come and help us understand sort of what you do. Is incredibly fascinating, so I appreciate it.
I think it is. Thank you all. If you have questions or want to reach me out, you know how to do it. You can just email me and I'll be happy to reply. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much, Susie.
Thank you
You
very
too.
much.
Susie.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See y'all.
Ciao.
Good stuff.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a super good meeting. That was dope.
Yeah.
It's a bummer that not as many people came because I feel like everyone would have found this very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was worried that it was going to kind of start fizzling out once we all kind of got our questions through, just because there weren't enough people. But I think we kept it going pretty well.
Yeah, I figured, because I mean, I could have asked like further questions too. Like, I, like Tom, had like a lot of questions, and I think with anything like that, we could have kept it going for sure. But I think it was good, like, to end it, not only just like to respect Susie's time too, because she's, someone that neither of us have had like a lot of interaction with. We don't know her that well,
just keep her for 3 hours past the deadline.
Yeah, exactly. But it's it's good to cut it off for that reason as well. So